Hi, everybody. This is Connor Pelham here for Connor's English Corner, number 3 for November 6th, 2017. Since this is the first Monday of November, we've got another deck discussion for you guys. And this week, I'm going to be talking about Loveru. So I'll just be talking about the pretty standard, what's considered the meta build, the trans Housework deck. Some people call it the yellow-green deck or the Yamicon deck. Uh, Pretty much all the same thing. So it's a yellow-green focus deck based on the which was transformation on the Japanese cards, and housework traits, which pretty much fall into three characters out of the set, being Yami, Maiya, and Mikan. Once we get the second set, if we get the second set, we'll have one more transformation character added in. Um, But that's pretty much it for the general deck. The pros of the deck are that you have good hand sculpting utility. You have a very powerful finisher, considered one of the best finishers in the game, and it's extremely resource efficient, just really requiring itself in hand and enough stock to play the characters. You have access to anti-damage in the form of an event counter, which can negate damage from your opponent's attacks. And you have anti-salvage in the form of a level 0 assist to prevent your opponent from being able to salvage characters. So the deck has lots of just strong effects in it, good synergy between its traits, etc. The cons of the deck, however, there aren't many, but the level 1 combo does need to reverse in order to get its card advantage, which normally wouldn't be a huge issue, just a minor inconvenience. But with Attack on Titan being in the English meta now, it's a little more worrisome than before, since Attack on Titan is both a very strong deck and one that can deny your reverses at level 1. So unfortunately, that's just something you have to deal with. I don't think it's enough to make the deck not a consideration, since the rest of the deck is still just very powerful. But it is something you have to be aware of. So the second one is that you have low defensive power. It's not really super low. It's not like Sword Art levels of low, but your main goal is not going to be winning field. Most of the time, your characters probably are going to be getting reversed, so you have to be aware of that. And then at level 3, you do have a very powerful finisher that can pretty much close out games without fail, but it can only do so when your opponent is at level 3 with 2 or 3 clock. Anything further away than that, and you're probably not going to be able to close out the game, unless you're not going to be able to consistently close out the game. Or you can still obviously just stick all your attacks and kill someone, but you're really your guaranteed kill range is going to be 2 to 3 cards on clock at level 3 at least. Anything further than that, you really just need one attack to stick to kill from 3-0. Or 3-1 maybe. But you don't have this these Hail Mary plays that Xenon can do in Sword Art, where you just stick a burn 4 and just put a huge chunk of damage, since your level 3 doesn't actually add extra damage on. It just really guarantees what damage you are throwing at your opponent. So this is the deck list I've got put together. You'll notice I am playing in this list the level 0, level 1, and level 2 Rune engine instead of the what was more typical in Japanese builds and what a lot of people are playing for English. The community seems pretty split on whether this Rune engine is correct or not, so as I go through those cards more in depth, I'll sort of explain their purposes, why I think they're right, and what they help the deck out with overall. You can see we are running 5 events in the deck, so we're a little tight on room for characters, but everything tends to work out pretty well regardless. Right, so this is the setup I've got for individual cards right now. Lovely card scans on the left, because English doesn't have any good quality card scans, so we're just going to have to go with blown up versions of the WSTCG.com images. Maybe I'll figure something better out than this, but I've got the text on the screen so you can actually read it, so that you don't have to try to figure out these blurry images. And I'll just sort of talk about the card while you can see the effect on your screen. So first up, we have the Sitting Maiya. This is your main sort of plussing level 0. When it gets reversed, you can pay 1, put it into your clock, look it up to top 2, add 1 to hand, put the rest in your waiting room. You don't have to reveal what you grab, and you can also grab anything. So this can help you get your climax. It can grab events. Can really just grab anything to help you set up for your level 1 game, or just keep your level 0 game going strong. Unfortunately, it does lose out to like stock bombs and stuff that are small enough to reverse it, but most decks in English aren't really running a whole lot of those right now, so not too concerned about that. Plus, we just don't really have any better alternatives. And this is on trait, so it's good enough. It's also nice because you can field it turn 1, and since you don't need to pay the stock until it gets reversed, you can field it turn 1, get your attack with it, and then it generates its own stock to pay for its cost. Unlike, say, Riki clones, where you have to pay the cost on play and can't use them on your first turn. So that's pretty nice. Alright, next we have Ren Elise Georgia. So this is the first part of the Ren Rune engine. When it goes from stage to waiting room, you can pay 1, discard 1 to add the 1-0 shown above to your hand, or you can add the 1-0 shown above onto your stage at rest, and then put the 2-1 shown above into your hand. So this is another one where you can play it turn 1 and then still get value out of it because it generates its own stock, which is really nice. And it seems like it needs a lot of like moving pieces, but it really doesn't. As long as you have one or the other of the level 1 or 2 in your waiting room, you can actually just discard the other one. So like once you get one copy of the level 2 in hand, every time you use this effect, you can just discard the level 2, add it right back to your hand, and play out the level 1. So that's pretty good. The reason we're playing this over other level 0s is just because in the English meta, a lot of decks are going to be killing your level 1 game regardless of what you play. So we want cards that are able to recur themselves, or at least replace themselves, which this can do. When you play the 0 and your opponent kills it, it brings out the level 1 for only 1 stock, which is essentially a 1 cost plus, which is really good. And it just lets you keep attackers, rather than playing something down, it dying, and you not being able to replace it for an efficient cost. So that's why I'm running this engine. He does get outed by stock bombs. He has higher power, so it's even easier for stock bombs to beat over him, or to rather send him to stock so he can't resolve, which is unfortunate, but I do think in the long run this is the better option for the deck. And it's just a good card. It's a good discard out, and you can use it throughout the entire game. Like, you can just field this guy as an attacker, and you're not really out anything by playing him throughout the game. Whereas other cards that you could be playing in this slot are going to lose a lot of their value later in the game. So next we have the Sitting Meek. So this is a 500 assist, and when you play it, you can mill 3. So the assist is pretty important, and the mill is nice because this deck doesn't have actually really any mill options in the deck. This is just about it, actually. However, the third effect is also pretty good. There aren't a whole lot of decks in English that this really shuts down right now, but it's against the decks that it does work against. It helps you guarantee favored matchups even more. So during the attack phase, if either player returns a character from their hand from their waiting room to their hand, all of that player's characters get -3 soul. So that is by Climax combo, or by if they trigger a door Climax and add a character back to their hand, all their characters will get -3 soul. Which not a ton of decks are playing doors right now in English. It's mainly like Madoka might play doors, and Love Live Sunshine might play doors. other than that, you do have like red variants of Sword Art have a salvage at level 1. Love Life Sunshine with Chica bombs salvages at level 1. So you are stopping things like that. Nisekoi plays doors and has a salvage combo at level 1 with the door. So when your opponent tries to resolve effects like that, you give them -3 soul across their board, which really means they're not going to salvage. It's almost always better to just not salvage and take the damage. So you can use this to sort of just shut down your opponent's hand sculpting abilities or plussing abilities and run them out of cards. Hopefully. Most decks you're not actually going to be able to run out of cards, but they're probably going to get stuck with suboptimal hands and stuff like that because they can't toolbox the cards they need. Alright, then we have cute Pajamas Mekon. This is pretty much one of the best cards in the deck, actually. This card is insane. It's not even really like insane in an unfair way, it's just a really, really good utility card. So its first effect is when you play it, you can discard a card to add a trans or housework character from your clock to your hand, and then put the top card of your deck into your clock. So you can just costless hand filter to grab any card from your clock. Which, yeah, there's selection issues there, but very rarely is it actually an issue if you're using it just like as a discard out. And sometimes you can grab something good from your clock. Then its second effect is a brainstorm effect, where you can pay 1 and rest 2 characters, and it's a search brainstorm, so you can search a trans or housework character for each climax you reveal. So yeah, it's a search brainstorm, which is really good. You can grab whatever cards you need whenever you need them. Often this deck will have to brainstorm a couple of times, just because a lot of its level 1 characters die. But that's not really an issue just because of how costless the deck is. Like, you have the stock to be brainstorming. And with the hand filter, you can just... This card really helps you guarantee that you always have what you need, which is one of the strong parts of the deck. Next, we have Petite Meek. This is a promo. It's one of the box topper promos. When you play it from hand to stage, you can give a trans or housework character 1500 power. This is normally not a profile I'd be too big on playing, but in this deck, you really need to get your reverses with your level 1 combo, and this can make sure your level 1 is high enough power to reverse its battle opponent, which is really important. That's why the card's really expensive. Yeah, so I've only got 2 in the list that I showed earlier, just because a lot of times, if you can hit level 1 first, you're not going to need this, just because you can reverse level 0s. It's really just when your opponent does set up big enough stuff, and you have other ways to power pump, so it's not like you're relying on this to get your reverses, but this really does help you get like the second reverse, or maybe even third reverse on some turns. So we do want to play it for sure. Going into level 1, we have a backup, Wrapping with Ribbons Maiya. It's just a 2000 power backup as long as you have a trans or housework character on your stage. We play this because some of our characters are at least reasonable powers at level 1. Our characters are like 6,000 to 6,500 at level 1. So with a backup, we can be like 8,000 or 85. So sometimes we can deny reverse combos, or just reverses in general. A lot of decks like Sword Art and Attack on Titan are probably still going to be reversing us anyway, but against other decks, we can use this just to keep our characters around. A lot of times, if you do your level 1 search combo, you can search this out in order to keep your level 1 alive to do your combo again the next turn. But yeah, it's not something we're like going to be relying on a lot at level 1. At level 2, however, we do play a level 2 that has really high power compared to a lot of level 2 games in English. So this can be really good with our level 2. Alright, so next we have Blue Metalia Rune. So this is the level 1 that our level 0 Ren plays to the stage. When you play it from your hand, you reveal the top card of your deck. If it's not alien or trans, at the beginning of your encore step, this goes to waiting room. So it doesn't check for housework, so if we do top check into a housework, then the rune dies at end of turn. However, most of the time we are not going to be playing this from hand. We're just going to be playing it off of the level 0 Ren's ability, so that first effect won't prime anyway. Next, it has an encore. It has clock encore, which is really good sometimes. Sometimes you'll have the rune on board, and you just need to keep a character around, and you can clock encore it. So it gives you that option to just another way to recur characters for an efficient cost, which other builds of Loveru can't do if you're not running this Rune and Rune engine. Here we have the most important level 1 in the deck, the Putting Away Clothes Mikan. If all of your characters are trains or housework, this gains 1000 power, so it's effectively 5500 base. And then Climax combo with the gold bar. This gold bar is actually, there's a yellow stock soul with the same card name. We're playing the gold bar because gold bars go into your hand easier, so you can do this more consistently. And it's the same color as the Mikan, so we only need green at level 1. Like going into level 1, we don't have to worry about making sure we have both colors with the stock soul. Plus, gold bars give 1000 power continuous, stock souls don't. And that power is obviously important to help us reverse our battle opponents. So I think the gold bar is hands down the correct option here. But yes, so when you reverse your battle opponent, you can search your deck for one trans or housework character, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle. So this is going to be like 6500 base if you play the Climax, because all the characters in this deck are trans and housework, so this will always be 55. So 65 on its own is reasonable enough for a reverse combo, I think. It's not going to get over backups, but it'll kill characters. With your assists, you're at like 7,000, maybe 7,500 in the middle. And we have a couple of other ways to pump power, like the Petite Meek I showed earlier, which can put you at like 8.5 pretty easily. Here we have Memories That Connect to the Future, Yami. This is a 1-1 assist. It gives 500 in character encore. So the character encore is pretty neat because we can use our level 1 combo, search out something random, and then just discard it for encore when the opponent kills our Mikan. And then we can combo again the next turn. But yeah, so this card's yellow, and it's why the yellow stock soul exists. That version of the card is sort of meant to combo with the 1-1, but the gold bar is just better, as I said. So when you play the gold bar to your Climax area, you can give a character 2000 power until end of turn. So this makes your level 1 Mikans really big. They're going to be 9k on the sides. Whichever one you pump with this 2000 power is going to be like 9000 on a side lane, 9500 in the middle. So you can make 2 lanes about 9000, 85 to 9, with the, I guess, 9 to 95 between this Yami and the Petite Meek. So you can get 2 lanes pretty big to get reverses. And that's going to be big enough to reverse most things, even through a backup. So you can pretty consistently get your searches off, which is one of the really nice things about this deck. Most other decks with level 1 combos can't really guarantee as well that they're going to always have high enough power to get the reverses. And since most of the characters in this deck at level 1 are relatively low power, they'll usually die on defense, but with this character encore, we can encore them, and it means our opponent left characters on their own stage for us to reverse again with another round of the combo. We are only playing 2 though, so since it's a 1-cost character, we only want to play really 1 of this to the stage at any given time, so yeah. So next, at level 2, we have our only level 2 in the deck, Rune, Elise Georgia. So this is a 2-1-95. Since it's overspec, it has a downside that it gets -1 level on the stage. Usually not actually a downside. The only times it comes up are when your opponent can side attack into it for more precise damage, I guess. Or if your opponent has level 1 bombs. The level 1 bombs are actually a problem, but most decks in English don't run level 1 bombs right now. And if they do, you can always just not field this. But if you can field a couple of these at level 2, like, most decks can't really deal with these effectively at level 2. The decks with early plays will be able to deal with one of them, but a lot of decks don't even have that in English right now. So like Loveru builds that aren't playing Rune engine of their own aren't going to be able to get over this. Kantai collection decks aren't going to be able to deal with this. Even Sword Art can probably only deal with it in one lane, as long as you play them on the sides. Attack on Titan is one of the few decks that probably can deal with these. I'm not sure though, because like these are still going to be like 10,000 on the sides if you have an assist behind them, which is pretty big. And then we've got the 2k backups, so these are pretty good just defensive walls for a one stock investment. Alright, so next we have Yami. This is our main level 3 of the deck. This is the pretty much reason you play this deck. This is just a really, really strong finisher card. So you can see the first effect, if all your characters are trans or housework, which, as I said earlier, is going to be always in this deck. You get plus 1500 power, so you're 10k base, and this card cannot be chosen by your opponent's effects. So this is the first reason that this card is just so powerful. In English, this isn't a huge boost for the card, but it's still very tangible. Your opponent cannot use things like the mismatched pair rest counter in Cinderella Girls. They can't use Project Darkness in opposing Loveru decks to prevent your damage. Kantai Collection can't use Compass on you because you can't be chosen for those effects. So they can't stop your Yamis from being able to deal damage. Next, we have on play, draw up 2 cards, discard 1 card. This is nice because it lets you dig for A, more copies of Yami, and B, copies of the Climax. So it has sort of like a built-in way to dig for its own Climax, which is just great. And since you're drawing cards, you can draw into your events, because you have an event that you want in your hand at level 3. So you can draw into those, you can draw into the Climax, more copies of itself. Worst case scenario, you're drawing into cards that you can discard to encore your Yamis, so you can keep using their combo if you get another Climax. And then, the actual Climax combo, when this attacks, if a card named Gentle Time, which is the wind you can see above, is in your Climax area, you give itself and another card, when their damage is cancelled, deal 1 damage. So what will end up happening, if you field 3 Yamis, is that you'll put the first one will give itself and the second Yami the ability, second one will give itself and the third Yami, and the third one will just give itself the ability. It'll give it to one other character, but everything else is already attacked, so that's irrelevant. But basically, you get 5 instances of extra damage if attacks are cancelled, spread throughout your board. Either 2 on 2 characters and 1 on the third, or 1 on 2 characters and 3 on the third character. Really, however, there's not a whole lot of actual math difference between the 2 ways you can split them, but so yeah, it's 5 total instances of extra damage if your opponent cancels, which is why like level 3 2 clock is sort of the preferred kill range for the deck, because then even if they cancel all 3 of your attacks, you're probably dealing damage through the shots that still kills them, or at least at like level 3 with 3 clock, because then they can even cancel one of the extra shots and you still kill them. Past that, you can, if one of your Yamis actually deals its 3 damage, then that's a little extra reach you've got, but the deck doesn't have, its only extra damage requires your opponent to cancel, so don't really have the reach, but you have the consistency, it's costless, all you need is the Yamis in hand and the stock to play them. So overall, it's a really good combo, and their damage can't be prevented, so just uninteractable damage. Good stuff. Next, we're playing 1 copy of Maiya Kurosaki. So this is it gains 1,000 power for each of your other trans or housework characters during your own turn only, so it'll pretty much just always kill whatever's across from it. But the actual reason we play the card is its second effect. When this is placed from hand to stage, you can look at up to X cards from the top of your deck, choose 1, put it in your hand, put the rest in your waiting room. X is the number of your trans or housework characters. So this is effectively like look at top 5 and add anything from like any card from top 5 to hand. So if our Yamis don't draw the Climax for us, we can play a Maiya and check top 5, which at that point we're pretty much guaranteed to find the Climax. or we can play her to grab our events or a healer, or just play her to check top 5 for a Yami to try to get an extra Yami onto the board if we don't already have 3. And since like our actual finisher doesn't really require any stock, it's pretty easy to have enough resources to play 3 Yami and the Maiya. And again, she does replace herself, so you're not actually like losing hand by fielding her. Last, we have 2 copies of Miyuki. So this is just a healer. It gains 500 for each other trains or housework, but we just play it because it heals. Sometimes we need the heal. Usually the time you'll play this is if you hit level 3 and your opponent isn't really in range to play your Yamis and guarantee that you can kill them. So you can play Mikons down to heal back down to like 3-0 and try to hold out an additional turn before you go into your Yamis. For the events, we're playing 2 copies of Comforting Warmth. This is search your deck for 1 trans and 1 housework character, reveal them, put them into your hand, and discard a card. Unfortunately, it has to grab 1 of each. You can't grab 2 of the same trait. But a lot of times what you can do with this is you can grab 1 of your level 1 combo Mikon and 1 copy of the 1/1 Yami Assist. Or you can grab a 1/0 Rune or the level 0 Ren along with your 1/0 Mikon. The 1/0 Mikon will almost always be your level 1 search, or your green housework character search, though. Occasionally you can use this late game if you draw into it to search out a level 3 Yami for your finisher. But, worst case scenario, you pay 1 stock, search your deck for the Mikon level 1, and then just discard whatever trans character you grab. So, good card. Just helps the consistency a little bit because it's extra, basically extra copies of our level 1 combo character. Then we're playing 3 copies of Project Darkness. Choose a character in battle, and that character gets the following ability until end of turn. This card cannot deal damage to a player. Choose one of your characters, that character gets 1500 power for turn. The 1500 is less relevant. The anti-damage part, though, is really big. So this costs 3 stock, which is really convenient that you're always going to have at least 3 stock if you attack 3 times. And since our finishers don't cost any extra stock, if we just play 3 Yamis and go, we'll have the 3 stock always. And we have plenty of ways to draw cards at level 3. So it's fairly easy to get a Project Darkness into your hand. And it just really helps your survivability, a ton. It's good against, Restanders, because it nulls both attacks, since they gain the ability until end of turn. But even against just other stuff, guaranteeing that you block, an instance of 3 damage, is often all it'll take to guarantee that you live a turn, which is really good for the deck. It lets you repeat a second turn of Yami combo. What's nice is that, so this is a counter, so it does require that your opponent frontal attacks you in order to play the counter. And Yamis aren't giant on offense, but since we have the assist that gives them character encore, we can discard cards from our hand to encore the Yamis to guarantee that our opponent has to frontal attack us so that we can play this counter. Our climaxes, we've got the Wind for a level 3 Yami, and then the Gold Bar for the level 1 Mikon combo and the level 1 Yami combo. Pretty standard, just 4/4 lineup of those. So next, a couple of other options. Most of these are just going to be, what if you don't play the Rune engine in the deck, since that frees up 10 to 11 slots in your deck. It gives you room to run a lot of other cards. So first we have the Sitting Yami. It's a level 0. It gains 1000 power whenever you play a trans or housework character, and it has a Resonate ability. When you reverse your battle opponent, you can reveal the level 3 Yami, which is a card we play anyway, so that's pretty easy, from your hand to choose one of your other characters, rest it, and move it to an open position of your backstage. So that second effect, you do as much as possible. If you don't have any characters not in rest, you just pick one and move it to backstage. If your backstage is already full, you just rest a character and don't move it. So it can save a character. It lets you get extra attacks. Unfortunately, it's terrible as a turn 1 play, because you just play it down in its attacks, and it doesn't actually do anything. because there's nothing to reverse or anything like that. And as a turn 2 play, it's not even amazing, because your opponent probably only plays one character going first, or as a turn 1 going second play, I mean. Your opponent probably only plays one character going first, so you play this and something else. It does allow you to, like, say, play the Mekon assist, the anti-salvage, attack with the anti-salvage, and then get a reverse with the Yami and move the anti-salvage to your back row so your opponent can't kill it, and stuff like that. Just some cute plays here and there. I don't like the card a ton because it does require you to open itself, another playable 0, and your level 3 Yami all in your hand, which just isn't going to happen a ton. And then you still have to get the reverse. It is notable that this works on your opponent's turn, though. If your opponent crashes into you for some reason, you can reveal the Yami and rest your character, I guess. But yeah, so it's neat. It's another plussing 0, but it just requires a few too many things to fall into place to work for me to like it. Next, we have Taiyaki Lunatic. This is unfortunately not a trans or Housework character, so keep that in mind if you want to play this card. It is off trait. It bonds when you play it. You can pay 1 stock to add the Yami level 3 from your discard pile to your hand. Unfortunately, if you're doing this at level 3, you then have to play on top of the Taiyaki, because Yami requires all of your characters to be trans or Housework in order to gain her 1500 in hexproof. So you can't leave this on stage. You also can't really field this at level 1 because your level 1 Mekon also has that same requirement. So it's just kind of an awkward card. It helps your consistency with getting 3 Yamis a little bit, but I don't think that's something the deck struggles with. So I don't really think it's worth the slot in the deck. But I figured I'd mention it since it does bond to, like, the main card of our deck. Alright, so next we have Taiyaki of Memories, Yami. This is a trial deck card. It's a standard drop searcher. It can search for alien, trans, or Housework. So it can search just everything in the deck and, like, everything not in the deck, which is really nice. It works in a lot of decks. And then it's a 3k power during the turn you play it. So this is another way just to... It helps guarantee the level 1 combo if you want to drop search into the level 1 combo. It can kill things at level 0 fine. It can drop search into your level 3 combo if you need that. So it's just general good utility and hand fix on a fairly sized offensive body. It's not like an amazing card, but it is notable. It does help you get your pieces, which this deck has a very, very strict game plan it wants to follow, and you always want to make sure you have the right pieces in your hand going into each stage of the game. So this can help you with that. And you usually have the room for it if you do take out the Rune engine. So next we have Love's Licking Maiya. This is a very basic card. It's just a 3500 that can't side attack as its downside. This is often played as sort of the second plussing level 0 if you don't have the Rune engine, just since it'll stick on the board a lot of the time. Unfortunately, now that AOT's around, you can't guarantee that as easily because they have a 3500 power runner. And a lot of decks do have just oversizes that can kill this. So I'm not too high on it, unfortunately. But Trans House does not have any 4000 power characters. So this is the best you've got, unfortunately. Last we have Sitting Yui at level 0. So this card is also not Trans or House. It is Discipline Committee and Animal. So you do have to be careful. Don't play it at level 1. Don't play it at level 3. Be careful what you do with it. It's good at level 0. If the number of other characters you have is 1 or less, your other characters get plus 1500. So she basically turns your other character into an oversize. And when she becomes reverse, if her battle opponent's 0 or lower, you can clock bomb it. You can get rid of the top card of your opponent's clock and send that character to clock. So this can be used to dodge things on death abilities, your opponent's sitting Maiyas, Inazumas, Hibikis, anything like that. you can get rid of with this card, which is nice if you're concerned about those things. With the 3500 Maiya, you can make that card like 5000 power, which is relevant. Your opponent can still side attack into it, but at least it guarantees that your thing lives. You can turn the sitting Yami into a 35 base, meaning it'll pretty much always reverse its battle opponent. And you can like clock bomb something with the Yui, and then reverse something else with sitting Yami, and then rest your Yui so you can use it to clock bomb something else the next turn and keep your Yami at 35 on defense. But again, that just requires you to open with so many different specific cards in hand on like turn 2 that I don't think it's worth it in the long run. And this card being off trait also just hurts your consistency a little bit, and it's not like a necessary card. At level 1, this is one of the cards you'd be playing instead of the 1-0 Rune. So this is another promo. It's 5000 power, and during your turn, it's 7000 power. So it's just a big offensive attacker that can usually kill most things, and then it's gonna die on the backswing. But it is being at 7000, you're gonna be like 85 if you play a Climax and have an assist. So you're pretty much guaranteed to just reverse whatever's in front of you, which is helpful sometimes. Unfortunately, the reason I do like the Rune engine so much over these cards is this is just going to die, and there's not really anything you can do about that. You might be able to counter and save it, but then you're still just going 1-for-1, and that's not the best. This is the other card you'd be playing. Gains 500 for each of your other trains or house, so whereas the Rune is like 55, 6 to 6-5 with an assist, this is going to be 65, 7 to 7-5 with an assist. So this is about 1000 power bigger. You can probably save it with a backup most of the time, but again, going 1-for-1 versus being able to replace your character just by paying a stock or clocking yourself, usually the card advantage is going to be more worth it. And most of the relevant decks right now in English, Attack on Titan, no matter which one you're playing, you're either reversing them or they're returning their errands to hand. Sword Art Online, no matter which one you play, you're reversing them. Kantai Collection, no matter which one you play, you're either playing a Climax and reversing them or not playing a Climax and not reversing them. Though Mekon, sometimes the Mekon can squeak out a reverse against Kantai Collection. But then, on defense, Sword Art is going to reverse either one. Attack on Titan is going to reverse either one. Kantai Collection is probably going to reverse either one. Though Mekon can definitely live with a backup. But I'm pretty sure Rune lives with a backup as well, anyway, a lot of the time. Unless they like play a Climax or something. So, like, there's not really a huge difference. What I'm trying to get at, like, in most of your big matchups, like, no matter which one you're playing, it's going to play out the same. So I think you might as well play the one that can replace itself easier. What is notable, this is green. Rune is not. The deck is kind of short on green characters, and green is important. So if you do want higher green counts, this card is green, and that's reasonable. At level 2, to replace the 2-1, we have Heart Yami. This is a card that you can play. I don't think I would, but it's 9000 power for a 2-1, which is fine. That's good. It's always going to be 9000. The 2-1 Rune is 95, so it's not that much smaller. And it does have the effect Resonate. When it reverses its battle opponent, you can pay 1, reveal the level 3 Yami, which you should definitely have in your hand by this point, and draw a card. So it's a 1-cost plus. Unfortunately, a 1-cost plus on a 1-cost character isn't amazing. You're still like paying 2 effectively to plus, but ideally you can win some board with this. I don't think it's a bad card at all. It can win board, it can plus you. If you don't need the extra card, you just don't pay the extra stock for the draw. You can also, you can pay 1 to resonate when your opponent crashes into you as well, just like level 0. And that's a little more relevant on this one because they can't just side into the Yami and deal damage still. So, decent card. It's a fair replacement for the 2-1 Rune. We have Preparing Breakfast Mekon. This is a level assist, 500 times the level of the character in front of it. That part isn't really relevant because we don't have good level 2s in the deck. Our only level 2 in the Rune build is not actually a level 2. So, yay. And at level 3, we just really don't care about power, so there's not much use in fielding this. The second effect is the relevant text on it. At the beginning of Climax phase, you can discard 2 trans or house characters and put this into the waiting room to change into the healer level 3 Mekon. It seems like a really heavy cost. You're losing 1 stock and 3 cards. But if you don't have the 2 stock to heal, and you really need to heal, you probably have the hand. So being 1 stock and 3 cards to heal versus 2 stock can sometimes be worth it. Usually not. That's why it's not in the list. But I guess it's a consideration for that reason. And if you're not playing the Rune engine, you probably are playing a couple of actual level 2s that this can boost. But still probably not many. Then we have Good at Cooking Mekon, which this is our way to deal with early plays. I don't play this in Rune just because there's really not room. This card is still probably fine in the Rune though. This is not strictly like a replacement. When another of your trans or housework characters attacks, this gains 1,000. So as long as you attack with this third, it's going to be 9,000 on offense. But if it attacks a level 3 or higher character, it gains an additional 3,000, putting it at 12. With an assist, this is going to be like 12-5, 13 in the middle. You can play a Climax to make this like 13-5 or 14. The 1-1 can pump it to make it like 16k. And yeah, you can kill level 3s with this. It definitely happens. So this can just remove problematic early plays. This is a way to remove Darkness level 3. This is definitely going to remove any of Sword Art's level 3s, like almost without any extra effort. It's not going to be able to remove Attack on Titans because that one runs anyway. But most early plays, you can remove with this. So it's a good card. Just 1 stock, removes an early play, and since it's not a bomb, it leaves itself on the stage. So it also doesn't let your opponent get an extra direct attack in. And it might even live until the next turn. Since it keeps the 3,000 through your opponent's turn, it's going to be a 2-1 10k, like 10-5 with an assist. So it might even live to get you an extra attack on the next turn. And that's it for the other cards. So this is the deck list again. So yeah, the most of these card choices you're going to see in pretty much every yellow-green list. There aren't a whole lot of options for the deck, but what's there is really good. Some of the counts could probably change. The backups are definitely not necessary for the deck. So you could drop the backups for a little more green color fix, or the 4th copy of the 1-0 Rune, or an extra sitting Maiya, or something like that. If you wanted to do that, that is perfectly fine. Finding room for the 4th 1-0 Rune is probably good. I do really think the Rune engine is just better than the alternatives, just because being able to replace your characters is better than not being able to replace your characters. And the other characters just aren't good enough on their own to get the slots, since they're pretty much all just vanillas. They don't have any actual effects besides being characters. And your main level 1 focus is the Climax combo anyway, so you're not fielding a whole bunch of other characters regardless. So yep, deck is really strong. Deck has a really consistent end game. It's just really consistent overall. Some of the issues, it does need to reverse, like I said earlier, so AOT gives it a bit of trouble. AOT having hexproof level 3s is also troublesome, because you can't Project Darkness. So that is actually probably an unfavored matchup. Just because that deck has a lot of ways to play around you. Any other deck, though, you're going even at worst. You're probably favored against most other decks in the game, since a lot of English decks, other than this deck itself, don't have hexproof. It's pretty much just limited to this deck, Attack on Titan, and Konosuba's early plays, the early play Darkness. Um, so yeah, your Darkness counter can just help you live against pretty much anything you're playing against. Yeah, I guess that's just about it. Deck is really straightforward, honestly. It's a really just simple, good, basic deck that does good things, has lots of good cards. It's really strong. That's why it's been winning a couple of events this season. It's been placing pretty consistently. So I wanted to talk about it. I think it's a really good deck still, even with Attack on Titan around. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else to cover with the deck. Card pool isn't giant. If I did miss anything, or you think I'm wrong about something, comment. Let me know. We can talk about that. Maybe we'll get set 2 for this eventually. This series does have a second set in Japanese, so that'll change the deck up a bit. Maybe we'll get that soon. I'll probably do another video on this then if that happens. Otherwise, that's all I've got this time. Comment, subscribe, like the video. Let me know what deck you want to see next. Next is going to be Excel World, but let me know what you want to see after that. And I will see you guys next week on Connor's English Corner. Thanks for watching.